Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our first Friday event. Michigan Rehabilitation Services welcomes you wherever you are across the state of Michigan today. Thank you for joining us on a beautiful Friday. We have a great presentation for you this afternoon. It is Career Exploration, the Information Technology IT Journey. Again, brought to you by the Michigan Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity, Michigan Rehabilitation Services. And we have a number of great speakers to present the information today. We want to, again, thank all of you for joining us and want to introduce our panelists today. I'm Steve Peterson. I'm the moderator for today's session. I'm the site manager in the Port Huron, Michigan Rehabilitation Services office for the Eastern District. Along with me today, Gene Bomarito. He is the business relations consultant for Region 6 in Michigan Rehabilitation Services. Also with the business relations consultant in Michigan Rehab Services, we have Gary Hollick. He also will be presenting IT and career exploration through the Business Networking Division of Michigan Rehabilitation Services. We also, in the second part of our presentation, have Ana Vargas. She's the program manager and lead facilitator for SIPI, which stands for Social Impact Philanthropic Investment, or SIPI for short, and also Steve Wolbert, who is the CEO of SIPI, and they've done some great work in our region and are looking to provide you some information about some of the services they've provided, and again, great information about information and technology as it relates to career and opportunities for employment. So just the next slide is going to talk about some housekeeping duties. And we've got this presentation, again, is going to be brought to you in 3 sections this afternoon. So really, we'll have an opportunity to answer questions. The first section will be with our business networking division and the relations consultants. And then they'll be talking about some careers and opportunities with Michigan Rehabilitation Services. And so then there'll be an opportunity after their little presentation to answer some questions. You can place them in the chat. Also, SIPI will do their portion, and then again, a question and answer session following their presentation. And then at the end, there'll be a chance to ask the panelists questions to them if you didn't get to them during their particular sessions and maybe came on a little later. So you can, again, ask questions throughout the event in the question and answers section on the Zoom interface. Time is reserved again at the end of that section to answer all questions. Closed captioning is available by selecting the CC closed caption button, and then you can hit the show subtitle button. If there's any technical assistance you need, contact Zoom, and there's a link for the Zoom Help Center, and a survey will be placed into the chat area at the end of this presentation. And with that in mind, I want to again thank our panelists for joining us, and I'm going to turn it over to Gene Bomarito, who's going to talk a little bit about the services as a business relation consultant in the business networking division as it relates to information technology.
Thank you, Steve. The evidence for a secure, well-paying career in the IT industry is evident from labor market information specific to Michigan and specific to Prosperity Region 6. Further job postings found on the internet labor exchanges, such as Indeed.com, just by their sheer number and the specificity of that job posting, give indication of the career opportunities and the notable compensation that is associated with occupations in the IT industry. But simply knowing about sizable opportunities for employment in the IT industry is not enough in itself for planning a career. Opportunity for exposure to IT jobs and for a foundational formation with one or more key skills for the IT industry is also necessary for people who are thinking of entering this field. People need exposure to know if this work is right for them. Work-based learning opportunities are ideal for accomplishing key skill development and confirming interest, and for confirming aptitude to learn at a competitive rate. Social impact, philanthropy, and investment, otherwise known as SIPI, can be a key player for all of these purposes. Ana Vargas will speak to participant successes. Gary and I We'll cover emerging IT occupations in a moment. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Gary.
Thank you, Gene. So what is IT, or what does IT mean? Information technology is the use of any computers, storage, networking, and other physical devices, infrastructure, and processes to create, process, store, secure, and exchange all forms of electronic information. IT professionals help organizations maintain their digital infrastructure and troubleshoot issues for technology users. IT professionals are in high demand as technology advances, as security becomes more of a concern for consumers. And this is probably my most important thought on this slide, is everybody, if you pay attention to the news or any type of written media, IT security is huge. There's lots of concerns about IT advancements and security issues that people will encounter and continue to encounter as IT grows. We use the word consumers in this situation to describe anyone who uses IT. This could be people that, this could be the home user, and it could also be the business user. Information technology is a broad term, and that includes positions in the fields of computer software, hardware, data storage and retrieval, and computer supports. It is a fast-growing industry with high-paying jobs and significant career growth. It's also one of the best fields to find remote work in. When you look at IT, one of the things to always keep in mind is the entry-level IT opportunities that are available out there. Many IT professionals start their careers in entry-level jobs because these jobs require very little training. There are also jobs that people naturally gravitate to because of the internet, because of their experience with computers as they grew up. They might find that they have some natural abilities in those areas. This also allows for the individual to learn on their own. So self-learning, this self-learning can lead to credential attainment and makes you more marketable. So it's that drive that you have inside you. Entry level allows you to get your foot in the door and work and learn at the same time. Entry level opportunities also allow you to upgrade your skills as you work. There might also be opportunities for on-site training and tuition reimbursement at some businesses for entry-level opportunities. Gene?
So technological change is the driving force in the IT industry. Newer capabilities for increased convenience and increased productivity is what keeps the information technology field relevant to our lives and why people employed in this industry are always learning. Comfort with continuous learning should be considered a given for anyone thinking of entering the IT industry. Problem solving is the heart of IT occupations. Strong analytical skills, deductive reasoning, and enjoyment with taking on novel challenges are foundational to the classically defined temperament of IT workers. People in the IT industry need a balance of 1, technical knowledge and ability, 2, communication skills and customer service orientation, and 3, patience for listening to people and for working through complex tasks and for troubleshooting problems. Attention to detail and documentation of service delivery and communications are also important. Occupations of the IT field are about problem solving, and most occupations in the IT industry require independent judgment rather than following rote processes. Attention to detail and thoroughness are essential. There's lots of customer interfacing in this industry. Active listening is essential for consulting with customers or for working within a team of IT colleagues. Active listening combined with asking strategic questions about the problem and the requirements or the functionality that the customer or the end user wishes to have from the service delivery is what makes the IT worker capable of clarifying and establishing the achievable goals of the project. And these are typically confirmed by the customer or the end user. Oftentimes, these goals are reviewed with supervisors or with team leaders. They can sometimes be converted into work plans or service agreements or invoices. IT workers have to adhere to work plans and document the steps that they have taken for the achievement of goals in the service contract or in the work plans. Teamwork and the requirements to work well with colleagues, often in an integrated manner, typically means in a way that is transparent to colleagues. And transparency means careful documentation of services and of one's time and of expenses made to complete the project. Next slide. So PC repair is one of many occupational classifications or occupations actually within the IT field. PC repair technicians work with both hardware and software. Hardware is anything you can physically touch. It's equipment, it's components, it's the peripherals that attach to the computer, it's the switches, it's the routers and a network system. Software, on the other hand, is what is used to run the computer. It's the instructions and the algorithms that are meant to be performed by the computer. Software can mean system software, like the operating system, Windows 10, for example, or application software, like Adobe, some Adobe program, Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, and then also programming software. So a PC repair technician is usually dealing with things that break. It's more often hardware than it is software. With respect to programming, PC repair technicians do not do much programming in the sense of writing new code. But PC repair technicians do something that is related, which is to configure software, which is done commonly to optimize the performance of systems. Configuring is also foundational. It's a foundational skill and a required fund of knowledge for anyone attempting advanced programming. Programming can be thought of as the act of creating instructions for a computer to try and make it do something, to complete an algorithm, a task. Configuring is the act of taking something, whether some software or some physical equipment, and adjusting its settings in some manner to make it work better for a particular task or in a particular scenario. An example would be for flashing BIOS, which is to adjust the advanced mode menu in the low-level settings used for starting up a computer and operating the hardware attached to the PC, the peripherals. BIOS meaning basic input and output system. You'll notice with these slides that we're starting with the occupations in the IT industry that require no actual programming and then progress towards those occupations that require more and more programming capability. Next slide, please. So the help desk technician is an occupation that can go by a few names. Help desk technicians can also be called help desk analysts, desktop support technicians, service desk technicians, and computer support specialists. In the collective, they're referred to as help desk positions. So a help desk technician typically provides application or network support. That means resetting passwords, or how do I do X, Y, and Z in a certain program, backing up data files, recovering lost data, getting computers or hardware to work, planning elaborate fixes, using a ticketing system, which then that fix would be passed on to someone with more capability, like an IT technician. This is all done from a remote location. So if the help desk technician cannot perform the task, then it is pushed on, as I mentioned. But the help desk technician is really heavy on customer support. So it's essentially one and the same in this industry. It is customer support in the IT industry. So help desk technicians must therefore always prioritize the customer or the end user. They have to be patient. They have to be great listeners. They have to be good at teaching. They have to be great at collaboration with other people. They have to work well under stress. They have to be very good with time management. And they have to have a good business sense. Many IT professionals start their careers in help desk roles. If you don't know where to start in IT, this is a good occupation to consider, provided that you have the right temperament for it. Help desk technicians, again, they configure software. Typically, they're not doing any programming. Next slide. The IT technician is the it's the classification, or it's the name, position title that can mean a lot of things. IT technicians work in a lot of different scenarios, very often with networking and connectivity, but not depending on where they work, their titles can change. Notice also in the slide that we're beginning to now mention programming languages used by the corresponding occupational classification, in this case, IT technician. So the languages that are commonly used by IT technicians that I have up there on the screen, that we have up there, are not really used by them right now, but it is expected that in the not so distant future, IT technicians are also going to be having to read and understand code that has been written by others, and possibly amending that code or editing that code. As with previous classifications, IT technicians do a great deal of configuring of application software and of the operating system. So IT technicians, as I mentioned a moment ago, they could have many names. They can be called a network associate, a field technician, an IT associate, a data center technician. Generally, IT technicians support, they fix or maintain the hardware and software for an organization's computer system. They often install, troubleshoot, test, and make ready cybersecurity systems, hardware and software, more generally. They often maintain networks and computer systems and can achieve high levels of technical skill and specialization, and from there become network administrators, systems engineer, cloud administrators. That's provided they complete some additional training and acquire additional credentials. So as I mentioned a moment ago, it's expected that IT technicians will need some programming capability with understanding code in the upcoming years, especially for server-side languages, which are the languages used on servers in data centers. And examples of server-side languages are Perl, PHP, Python, Ruby, Java, JavaScript. With that, I'll turn it over to Gary.
Thank you, Gene. Next thing we're going to talk about is software application developer. Software application developer must have the ability to program. They are responsible for creating and enhancing application software for PCs, tablets, cell phones, and other mobile devices. Some of the programming languages they need to know include Java, Python, and different classes of the C programming languages. It's helpful for programmers to have strong math and project management skills as well. You'll see the job outlook for software application developer is very good at a 21% annual growth. I want to point out here that a projected growth rate of 14% or more is an indication that a job is growing faster than average. However, 9% to 13% also indicates an increase in job opportunities, but of course at a slightly lower rate. However, when you look at annual growth, when you're looking at LMI, you also want to remember that this statistic doesn't include replacement opportunities. Keep in mind that employees move on, they retire, they take a different job, they move on to different companies, or they move on within their current company. Therefore, when we look at the statistic, this leads to many more opportunities in the IT field than is actually reflected in the annual growth rate statistic that you see here. Computer programmers write or rewrite programs to improve functionality and remove errors. As a computer programmer, you can work as a front-end developer, a back-end developer, or what is referred to as a full stack developer. A front-end developer is responsible for coding and creating the part of the software that the user interacts with. This is the part of the software that the user sees and experiences. The front-end developer is responsible for ensuring the visual part of the software is free of errors and looks exactly as designed. The back-end developer is responsible for creating the logical back-end and core computational logic of the software. They create components and features that are indirectly accessed by the user through the front-end application or system. Back-end developers have excellent programming skills in the C classes of programming languages, as well as other high-level programming languages. Back-end developers are experts in using database software. Back-end developers also perform the testing and debugging of any back-end application or system. Full stack developers, which I mentioned earlier, are responsible for both front-end and back-end programming. Some people have a natural ability to be good front-end programmers, and some have a natural ability to be good back-end programmers. People gravitate to different things. However, full stack developers are also an option out there. You have to be really good at what you do to be a full stack developer.
Gary, can I interrupt you?
Okay.
Yeah, the screen that we're on now, or I believe we were on, is computer programmer. I believe you had moved to web developer.
Nope, I was talking about computer programmer. Computer programmer has front end and back end as well as websites, but we're going to talk about that in a couple of minutes.
Oh, okay. My apology. Okay, thanks.
Software quality assurance engineers. Another position we're going to talk about. They're someone who monitors every phase of the software development process to ensure design quality, making sure that the software adheres to the standards set by the development company. Software quality assurance engineers make sure that new products work before they are released to the public. Software quality engineers need to have a very good understanding of programming. These are very experienced people. They also need to have a bachelor's degree or associate degree with a credential, such as certified software testers or certified software quality analysts. They also need to have good writing and communication skills. Web developer. Web developers create websites that businesses use to operate and interact with their customers. Like a computer programmer, this field also breaks down into three main areas: front-end, back-end, and full-stack developers. Requirements for entry-level candidates will vary by company and industry. It's possible to get a job with a high school diploma or an associate's degree, especially if you've done some web development on your own. There are a lot of tutorials and guides for how to do basic web page design using HTML, JavaScript, and Perl that exist on the internet. Front-end programming languages you'll want to learn include HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Back-end programming languages might include Python, Ruby, or PHP. Right here, we have some other opportunities that exist within the IT arena: system administrator, system analyst, database administrator, site reliability engineer, software developer, information security analyst, and cloud system engineer. It's important to remember that the IT field is always changing and growing. Depending on the size of the company you work for, the tasks required might fit perfectly within the title of the job. However, in other companies, your title may be just that, a title. For instance, in many cases, small companies might expect the system administrator, computer system administrator, or network administrator to also be responsible for creating and maintaining the company's website, therefore have the programming knowledge. So just always keep in mind, it's ever changing, ever growing, ever expanding. The foundation that you get through some of the programs we're going to talk about today helps get you on your way. All right, so now we'll take an opportunity for some questions.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gary and Jean. We do have some great questions that were typed into the chat box. So I'm going to just start with one. You mentioned earlier in the presentation about an end user, and we have a question basically just saying, what is an example of an end user?
So an end user would be that person that if you're on your credit union website, you're using the credit union website to do banking transfers, move money around, make deposits, pay bills. That's an end user. So you're using the software that's been developed for what it's meant to be developed for.
Great. We have another great question here. It says the growth is in the industry is based on entry level. Is this something that can be done from home? Which of these jobs can you do from home?
Wow, that's a good question. I think we've seen during the pandemic that there's lots of jobs you can do from home. I think every company sets that. I know, for instance, that IBM, for their programmers, they can work from home, but they're expected to be within so many minutes of campus, they call it, because if they ever need to call an all hands meeting, you need to be on campus for that all hands meeting. But I know people who work for IBM that do work from home. Other companies, you might be able to work from home. You know, an individual I'm working with right now lives in Saginaw, and he's going to be working for Dell out of Texas, and he's going to be working from home. So I think every company is different. I think as people are able to prove themselves and prove their value to a team, that they're allowed to have those conversations about flexibility.
Thank you. We have another question. We have actually somebody tuning in today from Ohio. So
right.
welcome and thanks for joining us. They're a high school parent. They're wondering what classes their child should take maybe in their junior or senior year. And they're looking at the wages that were shown here. Are those wages for Michigan or nationwide?
I would want to probably have that person reach out to Gina and I, and probably also Anna, and for further follow-up on the classes, because I would want some time to do some actual conversations with people about that. The wages were annual, but I find that the wages, you know, different companies are. I've seen companies that pay very high, and I've seen companies that pay lower than that. So
we have one more question here. Again, another parent maybe here that has a son that works on social media sites, who's helped a friend set that up. Is that considered a web developer?
I would say, as somebody whose niece does social media too, that's not technically web developing. Web developing is going to use the programming language. You do have software that they call What You See Is What You Get, or WYSIWYG programs. Those are kind of like desktop hosting programs that allow you to put together a website, but it really doesn't allow for the flexibility across the net for all browsers to be able to read those sites effectively. So you really need to know programming. You really need to be able to dig into HTML, JavaScript, and Perl to really call that web developing. But it is an indication of an interest. So I think it's a good foundational skill to have. It's an indication of interest in that world.
We have one more question. Person struggles with communication. They're interested in the IT field. What what would be right for me? I think I can maybe add a little bit. Hopefully, maybe if you need assistance and you happen to have a disability that may impact unemployment, MRS is certainly the place to get that information. I think if you maybe already have or have applied for services, you can work with your counselor to get that information. And certainly we can do a number of different opportunities to try to find what is kind of the best in the area. Any other information, Gary or Jean, that you might give that person?
I would say
Yeah,
just, oh, go ahead, Gene. I'm sorry.
well, I can speak to that. A help desk technician, for example, is going to require a lot of customer service. On the other hand, and even an IT technician, if you're working in the field as a field technician or in network connectivity, you can often have a lot of consulting kinds of communications that go on, sometimes with your own colleagues, but sometimes with customers. So something on the order of a PC repair technician, on the other hand, doesn't require that much customer interaction, hardly any if there's a supervisor involved or a team leader. On the other hand, or in the same way, a computer programmer is writing, programs usually to help the computer in some way handle tasks that were not anticipated from the beginning. So computer programmers can be writing smaller tasks, and they can be writing smaller programs and such, whereas a software quality assurance, checking software, checking the code, making sure the quality of the programming is done right, that would be also a good pick. But any kind of occupation where you have a lot of consulting, like web developer or somebody who is writing software applications, where you have to consult with a team and you have to, you're constantly checking to make sure that you understand what the software's got to be able to do. That's going to be hard for a person that is going to, is not going to want to, let's say, work with people. I hope I answered the question there.
Thank you, Gene and Gary. We appreciate the great questions that have come into the chat. We're going to thank Gene and Gary here. They'll be kind of joining us again at the end if there's further questions, but we're going to kind of move on into our presentation. Our next presenters come from the Social Impact Philanthropy and Investment, or SIPI for short. They've done some wonderful work in our region in the Eastern District of MRS. They're working with young adults. They look at some fun coding activities. And we know that IT is such a big part of employment these days. And so we've been exposed to the smartphones, we've been exposed to computers, at the same time looking at careers and opportunities in this field. If it's something that someone has a strong interest in, SIPI has certainly been a strong component of that, looking at how that we can maximize opportunities for our customers. So I'm going to turn it over to Ana Vargas and Steve Wolpert, who will be talking a little bit about their services.
Yeah, thanks so much, Steve. And nice to meet everybody. Good afternoon. Greetings from Flint, Michigan. And so I'm Steve. I'm the CEO of SIPI, and along with Ana Vargas, we've been doing this work now with MRS for approximately 6 years, I believe. If I'm doing my math correctly, we're coming up on our 6th year. And a little bit of background on us, we were founded in 2015, and our goal is to empower people and organizations to do great things. And when we began, we had started by creating an IT company. There was a large influx of international students, graduate students to the Flint community. And so we helped kind of create an IT company to employ them while they were here receiving their degrees. And through that, we also helped to do some work on the tech hire designation, which was a part of the Obama administration to help increase technology access in communities like Flint. And through that, we really learned that there was kind of a gap in the space around developing people who are interested and have the aptitude to also be successful in the IT field. And so kind of by accident one day, we were approached to do our first class with MRS. And I don't know how many people here are vendors or customers, and they've been looking for that kind of light bulb moment when they just knew, wow, this is something that we should definitely be doing, and it adds so much value to the individual. Well, our first experience was with a group of 35 students, customers, and this was at the beginning of pre-ETS. So these are ninth and 10th graders for the most part. And I remember we went over to Mott Community College in Flint and utilized their computer lab, and had 3 parapros walk in, and they told me, keep an eye on that one customer, that one student over there. He's going to be the one that gives you the most problems. And we got into the work, not really knowing what we were going to be doing that day, because we've obviously learned. But by the end of the class, that student was teaching the other kids in the classroom. And that for us was this light bulb moment of how, wow, we really have something here, and how can we introduce more people in our community to the opportunities around IT. And in partnership with MRS, we've always been responding to needs and how we develop our programs. And we have a great relationship in our region with Steve and Tracy and all of their staff of counselors. And I think that's really a key to us being able to do what we do, is really having that great relationship with MRS. So we're hearing from their perspective of what are their customer needs, and then we're able to respond with our programs to meet those needs. And so I'd ask to go to the next slide, please. And I will, and so over the course of the years, we've developed these as our services, and I'll have Anna kind of go through it, give a little bit of explanation about kind of what each service is and how they kind of fit together to help ensure that we're helping people move forward in their IT journey.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you everyone for joining us today. So my name is Anna, and we want to talk a little bit about our approach and how we provide services for MRS customers. So some of these services actually became developed out of a necessity when COVID struck. We realized a lot of customers did not have access to technology. So that being able to meet the needs of staying on top of appointments with doctors, making therapist appointments all virtually. Some customers did not have the capability to actually navigate Zoom or these different platforms that their counselors, doctors, professionals needed them to be able to access. And so through this, we've developed technology review and refresh. I know myself personally, sometimes if I don't use enough of the technology, like Excel spreadsheets, right, I tend to lose that skill set, and it kind of goes to the back of my brain. And every once in a while, I need a refresher course. And so our first step is really to meet with the customer, get a better understanding of where they are, what their skill set is, what they're trying to do. And we do a few assessments, making sure we understand how their technology works, understanding the devices in their home. And through that, once we identify maybe a lack of either skills or a lack of technology in the home, we are able to work with a great IT company through MRS. We are able to provide some of those devices. We had shipped out a lot of Chromebooks. There are people who needed bigger devices due to their vision needs and requirements. So we made a lot of accommodations during that time to make sure that customers didn't get lost in this big technology shuffle. As the world went virtual, we needed to make sure that customers were ready and able to stay connected. And so the access and troubleshooting is great. And sometimes, it's just, I have a device, but it's not working in the way I need it to. So we can help them make sure they are up to par and on track with all their technology needs. And we also have a job search. So again, we've kind of have this tiered approach. And so we know, right, we are in the workforce. We want to make sure people have that opportunity. However, I like to share, with a lot of the customers, when I was first applying for jobs, it was go to the mall, get paper applications, fill them out and turn them right back in. The world has evolved and changed. Now everything is pretty much virtual. And so we need to make sure that customers are ready for that virtual job search, doing all of their resumes, being able to stay connected virtually, do interviews over the phone or Zoom. And so we initially get that information. What is it you're trying to do with the technology? Where are you trying to go? What is your goal and end result here? And through our programs, we can help individualize a program that meets your needs or your interests. Perhaps you just want to try something different. Great, let's sit down and make a plan of what direction or pathway we might want to go based upon your skills and your needs. And so through that, the IT Journey was founded, and we are able to explore technology-based careers. While we can't promise to make you a programmer in the short time you work with us, we can help you better understand what it takes to become a programmer, to further expand your certificates or your knowledge base, so that most of the time we're working with high schoolers. If we're in high school, great, we can be working on certificate and credential attainment while we're in high school. So that way, as soon as you graduate, you're ready. You can hit the ground running for these entry-level jobs. And the same, we also have some adults that we've worked with that have went in a career path that maybe they are ready to pivot, try something different. We can work with them to develop a plan and using technology to make sure that we are being the most proactive that we can. We know the world is changing, and we want to make sure you're as comfortable with technology as possible. So we also have the workplace readiness and mentoring program that is great. We have a lot of first-time customers getting jobs that are nervous and really eager, but just need some more support to make sure that they are doing all of those things they can to maintain employment and further advance their careers here. And so we also have another really fun coming up, and we'd invite anybody who's interested in seeing some of our programs to come on out to our summer camps we'll be hosting here in Flint. We'll also be doing some virtually for students out of our county. And so this is a great way to see some hands-on experience to just get the ideas rolling. Sometimes customers think they have a clear concept. We've seen a lot of web developers, game designers come through, and at the end of the programming, they might think, well, maybe that's not the route I want to take. I love this. However, I could make a career going in a back-end developer direction. Maybe I don't want to be a programmer, but I would like to learn a language so I can do some web design. And so all of our programs are really introductory to give that experience and get the knowledge going for you. So next slide, please.
And I think it's really, about that interest and aptitude, like we had mentioned there, about being excited about getting into this field and feeling like this is something that you can do. Is something that Anna and other instructors have really done a great job of engaging in students, and in particular in that summer camp, if the in-person one and whatnot, you make something, and that light bulb moment and the excitement when somebody sees that they've taken something from the computer and turned it into a real life object. Really gets people excited about entering into the field. And so, as Anna mentioned, when COVID happened, we had to move our services to be virtual. So we wanted to just kind of highlight how we've been able to do that. Even through the pandemic, we've been able to keep a very close relationship with our customers and keep that instructor ratio, even in large group settings, at a good pace. And some of the advantages also were being able to customize the timing and the programs to meet the customer's needs. I saw one of the questions was, do we work with adults? And we do. And having the ability to work our schedule around when the adult customers are available, I think really was an advantage during this COVID time. And we've been able to keep a high level of service and engagement up with our customers through this time. Next slide, please. And I think one of the things that Anna mentioned through all of our programs, and I'll turn it over to her to talk about them, we try to use platforms that are available and accessible after the service is done, so we can introduce customers and individuals to these various platforms, and then they can follow up and go further even after the service is there with a very minimal or a limited subscription basis.
Thank you, Steve. Yes. So security, as you'll see, number one, that is our biggest priority, is making sure you are safe while navigating the internet. And, we've seen a lot of scams coming our way. So wanting people to be able to recognize, what is a safe platform to use, what is not. As Steve mentioned, there are a plethora, there are a ton of free platforms, open source. So we really want to make this easy and accessible. And it gives you the opportunity to work beyond just working with SIPI. So we want you to be able to get the introductory, get your feet wet in what we're providing. However, we want to be able to give you the opportunity to expand beyond what we're doing. And this has been great. A lot of customers will go through our program and then all of a sudden we'll get an email of, wow, you know, I loved this and I've completed all of these. I went through the whole platform and was able to now create a website or, you know, pick up and be able to learn a whole new language based upon these open source platforms. And so that is great. So we really want this to be adaptable. A lot of what we use also does not require a computer. We can do mobile platforms, if you will. All of these allow us to actually just have an ease of use. No matter where you are or what device you have in your possession, you'll be able to use these. Next slide, please.
And so we just wanted to briefly kind of touch upon, and we'll try to speed things up because we have a very cool interactive demo, just the number of services that we've provided over the last few years through the region, which typically we're kind of in Flint. And if you are a Michigan person, you'll know we kind of go up through the sum with our region in our area. And the next slide, please. We wanted to show you at the end of every, at the beginning of every service and at the end, we do a survey to determine the growth of the customer. And we just wanted to kind of quickly show how we're very excited how things really begin when they don't know a lot to how many more customers have that basic understanding of computer coding after a service with us. And the next slide, please. And also the ability to search for and find jobs online was another thing that we're very proud of as people go through our program. And the next slide, please. And we're really excited. I'll let Anna introduce this, but this was something that was done through our virtual service during the pandemic. This was done by students from not the same school and through the same IT Journey program.
Thanks, Steve. Yes, and so this was a really fun and interesting quick video. It looks very simplistic, but I just want to let all of you know that this actually took several weeks for the students and customers to be able to develop this. They worked, as Steve said, as a team. Some were in the Thumb region, some were here in our county, and together through all of our virtual platforms, they were able to develop this clip. And we want to show you this. And please keep in mind that this didn't take just an hour. This was several hours of work. Animation is pretty difficult, and to create movement inside of this is an added layer that they were willing to take on. They were up for a challenge, and we are proud of their accomplishment. We just love that networking piece that all of these students actually connected beyond our program and were able to stay in contact and continue working on other platforms together as a team. And we're excited to see some feedback. Maybe we'll see a new website or a new animated video that they'll design together. So we'll take a moment and play this for you.
Hi guys, welcome to SIPI Online Learning.
Welcome to job training. My name is Anna.
Name is Aaron, and my name is Aaron.
I would like 3 extra large plain chicken sandwiches, a fry and a cherry Coke with no ice.
This food is really good.
Thank you. All right. So moving on out of respect of time here, we want to...
Anna, we can go ahead and do this. Go ahead, let's go ahead and do this.
All right, great. So you will see a link in the chat session to code.org, and we want to give everyone the opportunity to see just a little bit about how we initially introduce coding. It looks pretty fun and interactive. We want you all to give it a try. And so for time, we'll go through this very briefly. The blocks have all been coded. So we're going to start by manipulating to trace this hexagon. We love this platform because it also will read to you out loud. If you get stuck, it will provide hints. So this is really great for us to use. So Gene's going to start. We're going to move forward by 100 pixels. And as you see, he's going to change the degrees to 60 because at the top, they always give us a hint. So we're, not having to guess or figure it out on our own. The other cool piece is he's moving this around. You'll hear it snap. So you know that the program is working. And they give us a tool at the top. It actually tells us how many number of blocks we are going to be working with. So as we're going through manipulating the block pieces, we know if we're getting to 11, all right, we're almost close. We need one more to complete it. The great thing also is if it takes you more blocks to complete this, the program still works. So there's really no right or wrong. Essentially, you can use as many blocks as you need to make this happen, but they will give you the reminder. And after we hit run here, once we've got all our code, we'll be able to see the design happen. And we can, Gary, speed up the little button there next to you, the rabbit pace. It'll go a little quicker for us.
And Anna, this is Steve. We want to make sure we put the link, or we get a link in there so they can try this on their own, because somehow we're having some struggles with the link. But at least you got to see on the screen here what to do, but you can actually go and do this yourself.
Yes, absolutely. And so here really quickly, we want to show you the show code piece of that. At the end, as you can see, it will show you how each block was coded in JavaScript. So while it's a little bit easy for you, you also get to see the back end portion of this, and that the code was all written for us to be able to use a little bit easier. But it's good information to have. And as we progress into JavaScript writing, you'll have a foundational understanding of what that looks like.
And we did get a link put into the chat. So if you want to try this on your own, it is actually in the chat at the bottom of the chat. So feel free on your own here to try that little program, little interactive opportunity for you this afternoon. And we're going to open it up for questions. I want to thank Anna and Steve for their demonstration, and also obviously the programs through SIPI. We've had a wonderful relationship with them and continue to build that. I think there's some questions. There's some individuals that have tuned in again from around the state, and they're wondering, is this something that they can attend? Again, if you're in the Flint or in the Thumb area, we have a 6-county region, and that includes Genesee, Lapeer, Huron County, Tuscola County, St. Clair, and Sanilac. So those 6 counties have been working with SIPI, and they do some things in person and also virtually. But I'll let them kind of talk about potential opportunities.
Yes, if anyone's interested in learning more about our programs or would like to bring it to your region, we obviously have the virtual program, which is easy to offer, or we can talk about doing some sort of blended in-person virtual hybrid program as well. But we're certainly open to that. And even if it's just a train the trainer model, we're really passionate about exposing as many customers to this field as possible. And so we're glad to have any of those conversations. And you can reach out to Anna or myself, and we're glad to talk with you.
Absolutely. And Steve, I do see another question here we'd like to answer regarding, can students from MSD attend your sessions? Absolutely. We have in years past had several students that have attended. We do bring in an interpreter, and we go through class and make any accommodations as needed. So we are open to students from MSD joining us. And in another county? Do you have to? No, you do not have to live in Flint to attend our sessions. As Steve said, we've done this virtually. We do a hybrid model. We are gearing up for summer. Some people had questions. Again, you can reach out to us directly. You do not have to live in our county. We're gearing up for summer. We'll have students from Lapeer joining us in a hybrid model. Some will be coming to us. Others that can't, they'll be joining us virtually throughout the summer program. And another team forming, those were high school students. I believe we did have 2 adults that had just graduated, so we like to consider those adults, right? But it was a great blend. We had some 20-something-year-olds and 17, and that was wonderful.
And if you're in the Eastern District, please get with your counselor if you're interested in those services. If you're signed up with MRS, and again, working with the Eastern District of MRS, you want to maybe talk to your individual counselor about potential services through SIPI, and we can discuss those with you individually. So any other questions? Kind of looking through the chat, I think we got most of them. And if not, I want to thank our panelists here today. We've got about 5 minutes. I don't know if anybody has anything else they'd like to chime in, but again, I will say that technology, again, is such a big part of all jobs these days. And certainly you've seen SIPI here and maybe getting young adults involved with their programs and to decide, or maybe to even look into career fields in IT, but also just for basic use for other jobs as well outside of the IT field specifically. So you've heard a little bit about how to get into the field, but also maybe how to get started, or just in general use of the technology itself today.
And so I just want to chime in here real quick, Steve.
Absolutely.
We had additional slides that we were going to cover. We were going to talk a little bit about apprenticeships and how that can help with next steps. However, in the interest of time, we did have a hard stop at 2. So I'm going to jump ahead to the contact slide because I want people to be able to reach out. I know that there was a lady from Ohio that had some additional questions. If you could reach out to me or to Jean, we could help figure out how to help you. Or if there's other questions that people have, there's our contact information. And are there any other questions from the field at this time?
Just some comments. It's good to see that there are programs available for students. And is there any programs, again, available for students? So it sounds like that they're actually appreciating that. It says, is this just an intro? We would like to ask Washtenaw. So again, there's some interest from around the state. Again, maybe get with your local MRS office, and there may be opportunities with local programs. In fact, I think we have a slide in Gary, if you want to kind of show maybe just some of the other potential programs that may be available. We've got just a couple of minutes left here, a few minutes, but if we slide down, I think we have one. There you go, training opportunities. And why don't you go over that?
Yeah, Gene, why don't you go over this real quick? This is your slide.
Virtual Academy is, the ACT Virtual Academy is a opportunity for customers of MRS to receive training in many different software applications, but also in programming. And that comes as a free service to MRS customers. The agency works in conjunction with the National Employment Team, NET, and with Microsoft for extending the programs and then certifications for completion. So there are certifications that can be awarded, and that can be shown to employers as having attained a certain facility with, we'll say, programming. You can also go to private sector, New Horizons Computer Learning Centers. They might charge anywhere from $1,000 to $3,500 for learning, a certain level of programming, but typically they're more about different types of software that is application software. Amazon Academy is another source. You have free entities like Detroit Coding Boot Camp. You have the Michigan Bridge Academy. It's also a vendor service through MRS. There's the Khan Academy online, which is a self-paced program that's free. So you have a variety of free programs, expensive programs, and then programs coming through MRS that come at no cost to the MRS customer.
Thank you, Gene. And again, appreciate everybody's time today. The great panel here. Want to thank everybody for tuning in across Michigan and even into Ohio today. Thank you so much. If you are interested in services or have more questions, please reach out. Maybe if you're already working with MRS, we can hopefully answer those things. I know there was a part two. We have registered apprenticeships we work real closely with. So just some opportunities for you as we think about the IT field. Again, that wraps up our presentation today, but we want to again thank everybody and thank our panelists, and everybody have a great afternoon and weekend.
And there should be a survey that's been put in the chat. So please click on that survey and please complete that survey. That helps us to make sure that we're doing what we should be doing in helping you understand the IT field and opportunities and for training. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.